Welcome to a new series on the Living Story in Guild Wars 2. My name's Funder. I'm an officer on Aurora Glade, the Odyssey Guild. And I wanted to put together this series to introduce a few people to the Living Story, or maybe reintroduce it to people who haven't been paying that much attention to it. When it first came out, it wasn't very well received by a lot of people. Maybe you've not caught all the details that were perhaps out there. I got to say, I got into it pretty early. I got very excited back with the Mad King update. Weirdly, the Lion's Art statue being destroyed and then slowly rebuilt over the next few updates was really cool to me. It showed that ArenaNet were going to, take things seriously, and things were going to have weight and meaning, and they're going to pay attention to the little details. So that was kind of cool. Since then, we've had like the South Sun update, and so I started putting together information on all this for my guild, just so that we, a year down the track, could look back at it and see where we've been, and remember those little details that you might forget otherwise. It seems like with the anniversary of Guild Wars coming up this month, this was a good opportunity to try and share that around and bring some more people along for the ride. They've been promising that the threads that they've been basically seem to be disconnected at this point have been working towards a big story, and the more people that can enjoy the big moments that we're hoping are going to come, perhaps in the next month, the more people that can enjoy that, the better. There's some great resources out there at the moment. Wooden Potatoes has just put together a couple of videos which are fantastic. The Guild Wars 2 wiki's also got some great information on the living story if you want to put it together that way. What I'm hoping to do here is to approach each chapter that we've been through as a standalone piece, and just treat it with the information that we knew at the time. So get a little bit of the story flow hopefully happening that way. That's the plan. I'm down on South Sun. Just a reminder that back at the start of it, we didn't know the Consortium, we didn't know Noel, we didn't know Canuck, and we didn't know Ellen Keel, and they've all become big parts of the story now. So I hope you'll come along and see where it goes next. Thanks, and hope you enjoy. So the living story officially started back in January with Flame and Frost. The prelude wasn't very well received by people to start with. ArenaNet were basically just testing things out, seeing what they could do, getting their teams together at this point. So the content was a little slow, and that frustrated a few people. But now we've got 4 living story teams delivering content on every 2 weeks. So things have come a long way. At the beginning, we found ourselves in Wayfarer's Foothills and Diessa Plateau. Steam vents had opened up over the maps. Basically what you can see in front, these are the only ones remaining. Elementals were pouring out of those, and we had to kill those and then block up the vents to try and keep everybody safe. The people we were keeping safe were refugees, Norn and Char, who were being attacked by forces unknown and were making their way south to Holbreak and the Black Citadel. Here we found a body of a merchant. That was the description that we got from examining him. Flame and bleeding ears, not typically 2 things that you see together. So that got a few people interested, and some theories on who might be behind the attacks on not only the merchant but obviously the Norn and the Char. The building up there was retrofitted. At this point we had no idea sort of what that was about, so that was causing a few mysteries. I think it was introduced in an update or 2, but up here we found a merchant's bodyguard. He also reported that there were attacks on merchants up in the north, and he was actually quite pleased about it because he was making a bit of gold out of protecting them. Not all of them were lucky to have his services, but he disappeared suddenly, so we never quite found out whether he was a force for good or what. So that was basically the start. As I say, it was a bit slow, a lot of signpost fixing as the refugees made their way south to the capitals for each of the races. We basically just kept the trails safe. With the February update, we got our first look at the enemy that had been terrorising the Norn and Char. In the Gathering Storm, these portals opened up in both areas, and Flame Legion and Dredge both started pouring out. Flame Legion using Dredge weaponry and vice versa, and that was a bit of a surprise, given that those two have never had any association in sort of any of the Guild Wars lore. So that was strange, but it does explain the merchant that we met earlier. The fire and the damage to the eardrums. Dredge used sonic weapons. So yeah, basically they started attacking the northern areas of both zones. I'm in Diessa now, which is just behind that strange building that was added. You can see the vents on this side of the mountains as well. And the refugees were making their way down to Holbreak and the Black Citadel with refugee camps in both areas, and they were filling up very quickly. We got to watch them sort of grow and expand week by week. There's the Dredge down there, right on cue. So refugees were becoming a big problem for both cities. Just as things looked their worst, a mysterious benefactor offered to move the refugees down to Lion's Arch. That turned out to be the Consortium, the rival company for the Black Lion Trading Company, and the refugees started to make their way down here. Interestingly, there were already some Grawl refugees in the area, but they didn't get anything from the Consortium, and they wouldn't have taken it if they did, because basically they don't trust them, as you can see. Some of the refugees that have made their way down here, we collected items that they'd lost along the trail. Interestingly, you can still find these characters in the game, and you can catch up with them after the events that you see here. The Molten Alliance began their assault in March with the Razing, which was the systematic destruction of villages and homesteads across the Diessa Plateau and Wayfarer's Foothills. We were tasked with meeting with Ritlock Brimstone to find out the Char and Norn's plan to resist the attacks. While we were there was a man named Brahm who was basically doing the same thing. He made the surprising claim that he was Erstagoggen's son. Ritlock's a good friend of ours, and he didn't know anything about that, so he basically sent him packing and said, you're going to have to look elsewhere for help. So he went to Holbreak and met with Not Whitebear and Air, who it turns out is his mother, and she just hadn't mentioned that to anyone, so that was a bit of a surprise to everyone. So as they were organising the alliance, the task of liberating Kragstead fell to Brahman the player. What we found when we made our way up there was that the Molten Alliance were sieging the village, setting fire to everything, capturing, murdering, and we started to make our way through Kragstead, basically pushing them back as we went, eventually making our way to the final boss area. What we discovered here was that that they'd been capturing prisoners, and among them was a girl called Attilia and her family, who it seems Brahm's a bit sweet on. Back in the Black Citadel, we met with Rox. She was getting instructions from Ritlock again to head to a place called the Nolan Hatchery to try and liberate that. It's a Devourer breeding ground and important to the Char war effort. While we were there, she discovered a baby Devourer who took a liking to her and would later go on to be named Frostbite, who's quite cool. At the end of that, good line from Rox there, we liberated the facility, and then Brahm and Rox both promised to be back in touch with us as soon as they had more information. As part of the war effort, infiltrating the Molten Alliance were spies. We went around and we collected information on what the Molten Alliance was hoping to achieve. Meanwhile, they were listening on us and had these sonic periscopes that were popping up all over the place and causing no end of frustration for people. That left us with a bit of a question. Why were these two working together? What was the end game? How did they come together in the first place? That was where the story was up to. Meanwhile, the refugees that were in Lion's Arch were being promised by the consortium that they had a solution for their needs. If the Molten Alliance had taken their homelands, they would set them up in South Sun Cove. And so our old friend Subdirector Noel is in charge of the efforts of building a new home for our refugee friends.